These are the Stenheim Ultime II, one of the most beautiful speakers I've ever seen. And for reasons I've explained in a longer video, which I'll attach below, I want one. Problem is, I can't afford it. These things are about $160 some thousand, and they range up to $208,000. Yeah, they fluctuate about 40 grand, basically the price of a car. So yeah, way out of my price league. However, I want one. As if the price tag wasn't impressive enough, check the specs. Yeah, 509 pounds because it's made of CNC cut aluminum, and the range is very impressive for professional drivers, and a soft dome tweeter. I don't know how. Anywho, I want one though. Now I know I cannot replicate the sound because, you know, me by myself as a DIYer versus Stenheim's entire engineering department, yeah, I'm not gonna fool myself. So I'm not going for matching the sound. Besides, I've never heard them play. They just look beautiful. So I'm gonna see if I can match the look. I'm definitely just gonna try to see if I can match the look. Now I have a few ideas how I can pull this off with MDF because I clearly don't have a, you know, aluminum cut CNC machine. So let me see what I can do about the look. I have an idea how to pull this off. It's radical, but I think I can pull this off. Now, just so we know, I'm not going out to buy new woofers for this box. I'm going to recycle my 4 current bad boys because they sound great, they work fantastic, and all I have to do is just manipulate the enclosure settings to make sure these match up nicely. Again, I use Photopea, the free online software, to quickly come up with this design. I think it will balance my current drivers with the look I'm going for. The only thing I'm concerned about is that curve on the corner. Yeah, that curve, it's bothering me. I can get the grooves with my dado, but that curve is, yeah, that curve. So I got these off Parts Express from my tweeter, and for my mids and MTM config, I think they'll work nicely. So while I'm at Lowe's, I asked them to cut it down for me. This makes things a lot easier to carry. Now once I get home, you know, cut down the 4 sides, you know, take those big lens, cut them down. Even that was a bit much of a maneuver because, you know, I'm working by myself here, as you can clearly see. But, you know, we got it done. Because those are the chunkier pieces, because they're 20 deep. Alright, so these long cuts are for the front, and I'm then going to remeasure it for the back. Just double checking, just making sure. Now these tops and bottoms, they're gonna be cut off at the same piece, plus I'm gonna cut the extra one for that interior brace because it's the same dimension, 13.5, because it's gonna slide inside. So I'll just cut it while I'm at it, and then I adjust for the length of it here. So I think I'm done. She's still plugged in. Let me get that plugged out. Yeah, I do use my truck to power it. Why not, since I have it, right? Okay, so we've got the 2 front pieces, right? Cut and ready. We've got 2 sets of tops and bottoms, so 2 tops, 2 bottoms. We've got the 2 back pieces here, and 4 massive sides. We have the core foundation ready. So here I'm trying to mark out where I think those decorative pieces are supposed to go. It's literally all guesswork because, you know, Stenheim didn't exactly provide that detail, and this is what I initially came up with. You know, as I took a little step back to look at it, I don't know, I wasn't feeling it. I think the top was too big of a space. I think the top needed to go up some more, so I'm probably going to adjust it a little bit. So all the measurement in the world, and I still physically have to see it. So here I am laying it out just so I can get a good visual of what it will actually look like once everybody is in the party. I just have to, I can't help myself, I just have to. Yeah, oh yeah, totally. Now I'm happy. And voila. all is out. Yeah, I broke out the calipers just to measure those internal dimensions because I have a tool, so why not? There is nothing like, this moment when you're placing your woofers down, marking that spot. It just feels good, like you see the plan coming together. That's an awesome feeling. And yes, I put the woofer on the board every single time. It's a visual thing, as much as it is a numerical thing. It just looks good, feel good. It's that motivation that keeps you going forward, because there it is, you're seeing your driver on board where it's going to be. I don't know, it's a psychological thing. Now here I did some measurements and I'm pretty sure I cut it a little too close, but it looked pretty good, but it still felt a little close to me, but yeah, we'll see. I have to use my metal cutting bit to cut the wood tips off, otherwise the router won't be able to fit over the top. So that's what I was explaining earlier about having to cut the tops off. Clean fit. Yeah, it works. Clean fit, perfect measurement. Safety note here, please make sure you wear a mask when you're working with MDF and basically any wood, but especially MDF. Okay, you're going to do a lot of cutting. Please make sure you wear a mask. This thing, look at my garage floor. It's supposed to be black, okay? And that's just from a few wood, because I did some roundovers before, and that's just from that. I mean, it generates a lot of dust, okay? And me, like a complete moron, I was out there without a mask for a good portion of the time, and I didn't start wearing one until later on, after I started getting stuffy nose and a few things. So please don't be like that, Jack. Well, moron in the video. Just please wear a mask. Please wear a mask. And oh yeah, I don't know if I said it before. Yeah, wear a mask. Protect yourself, and so you can be around for a very long time to annoy your kids and your grandkids. So I used the same 1/2 inch roundover for the tweeter, but it just didn't look right. I decided to use the full 3/4 inch roundover that I used for the sides, but I went a little in just softly first before I dropped it all the way down. Checked just to make sure. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. So, let it all the way down, give me that full 3/4, and man, it turned out great. Just so you know, these calculations hurt my head. Not because the math was difficult. It's just all that work that was put in the day before. If I messed this up, I'd have to do all of that again. So I was a little nervous. But, this was the moment. Time to put on my little El Cheapo dado blade that I picked up. Set it for, I think it was 3/16. I had measured it out to cut that first line. I'm telling you, I was sweating bullets, okay? I was sweating bullets because this was a one-shot deal. You see how many times I'm measuring this thing? Yeah, I was not a happy camper. I couldn't even get the nut on. I was that nervous. Look at me, fumbling. I was a nervous wreck because I'm about to make some cuts that I cannot undo. Oh boy, here we go. Of course, I'm not going to test it live. I cut a piece of wood, round over using the same 3/4, and do a test cut on it. Moved it, and I had to do this weird angle in order for it to cut, but it seemed to work nicely. And it cut it really clean. So the idea was to cut it, move it exactly 1 inch, and then angle it, and then roll it off of it as it comes out. I gotta say, this surprised me. I didn't think this was going to work, but the result was undeniable. Look at it. That's a clean cut. Now I just have to be able to replicate that on the live pieces. Did you know your truck tailgate is about the same height as the table saw? Yeah, go figure. People who make trucks must have, known there were jokers like me using it in this fashion. This was the weirdest cut I've ever made on a table saw, but it actually went really well. I was expecting problems and weirdness and maybe even a kickback, but just being gentle and just going slow, it worked out a lot easier than I thought it would have. The lines are there. Thank you, Lord. Magnificent. Wow. I mean, just wow. Now, this is not how I normally assemble a speaker box, okay? But there's nothing normal about this box. So, in order to keep those lines all lined up, I've decided to assemble it in sequence, side, front, and inside. So, keeping that line going all the way around. So, I put it on the top like this. It's a little weird to balance it like this, but get it all nicely lined up, get it all flush, fire a brad in there, and then do the same thing on the other side. And then just repeat when I put the other side on, just to line it up and just to keep those lines aligned. I've said line and align a lot, but you get the idea. Now after that glue set, I continued the assembly with the other side, just keeping those lines, aligned. You're going to hear lines and align some more, I'm pretty sure, because that's a major feature, so I have to get it right. So I need some support for the front, and I'm going to use these 2x4s, but I need a flat edge, so I'm using my table saw to trim a piece off so I have a nice flat edge to work with. I'm using these 2x4s to support the front. I don't have it double baffled like I normally would for my 12s or my 15s, and that's making me nervous. So I'm putting this in so I have something for the front to screw into. Now this piece is in the diagram where it separates the lower woofer from the rest of the cabinet, and that's what I'm installing now. And of course, yes, it has to be square, so I check before I fire those brads in, and I put plenty of brads in this bad boy. I really don't like firing brad nails in corners like this, but I didn't have a choice, and it could have caused a lot of problems, but thankfully it didn't. It worked out nicely. Now this is a multi-step process, but I figured this is the easiest way to do it. So I angled the box off of the edge of my little stand so I could get under it, physically see the speaker in the hole, line it up properly so that it's dead center in that hole before I mark it, because once I mark it and drill those screws in, there's no going back. So I had to get this spot on. Let's get rid of those brad nail stickouts and pre-drill the holes for the speakers, makes things easier later on. Now it's time to mark that hole for the interior that we talked about earlier. But of course, this being a custom build, as I was going along, our ideas were generated. I was like, you know what? Let me just use a great big 6-inch circular hole cutting saw, and just make 2 large holes. And even then, I had another idea. Instead of doing 1 or 2, let's just do 3 and make a pattern and see what it looks like. I've never done this before. I'm literally winging it as I go because I had an idea. I have extra wood, so if it went wrong, I could just easily swap it out. But I said, hey, let's see what it looks like. And I had to swap the saw out because my dual, battery power saw was struggling a little bit. Now with the round over, it actually turned out great. Look at that. Couldn't avoid this one. Time to patch them holes. I need a nice flat 90-degree surface to screw onto and to make sure that the braces remain square. So just trim off that little edge piece. It gives me a little bit more surface to work with, and of course make sure it's perfectly square. And I trust my table saw, and especially that brand new blade I have spinning right there. Oh, I love that blade. That blade just making everything cut like butter. Again, one more little trick, working by myself, I pick up a few tips and there and tricks here and there, and so this is one of them. Just grab those clamps and it holds stuff while you keep your hand free. Handy. Oh, my little buddy, very handy. First like that, wait for it, and now they're all in. No, it's not screwed in yet. I just ran some wires because they're going to be in parallel, so both of these wires come out, the other one continues, and it goes down to there, to the other guy. This one I've come up with this doohickey for because it's 12 gauge, it's pretty thick, so I fork it so that I can fish one through the hole and then twist it. I'm going to solder it, of course, and then this one I'm going to have to wrap around the terminal and then solder it after. But yeah, that's the game plan I come up with so far. I gotta tell you, this took so much longer than I initially anticipated in my head. I genuinely did not envision and realize the amount of wiring and work that was gonna go into it after the speaker got inside. I was just sitting here cruising along. You're gonna see how long I was at this, just doing stuff. You know, I stopped, we'll get some food, and you know, came back, kept going, you know, screwed the MTMs in. It was so much longer, so much more hours invested than I initially anticipated. Inside here is two different screws. I use the 0.63s for the tweeters and the 1-inch screws for the mids. I used a combination of 1-inch screws and 1 1/4 inch backer screws for the woofers, because I know they're going to do the most vibrating, so I just want to take that extra precaution with the woofers. Not too shabby for a little backyard build, huh? Yeah, we can do it. Now let's do a quick test and hear what this bad boy sound like. Alright, so let's go ahead and wrap up this already way too long video with a cost breakdown. Now I'm not going to list everything on the screen because you guys can see that. Now the total price, $787 for what you're looking on the screen, and that's assuming you already have 4 12-inch woofers that you want to use. If not, and you want to use the ones I have, these were $540 at the time I purchased them, which will bring your total to $1,867 for the whole kit caboodle. Now, you can clearly knock that price down, okay? There are 6.5-inch mids that are below that price tag. You can probably get some for like 20-something bucks, and if you shop around, you can scrape even more off. You don't have to go to a tweeter that high. You could go for another type of tweeter. It's kind of hard to manipulate the MDF numbers, but the spray paint and the aluminum paint, those are expenses I could have done without. I mean, if I had gotten wraps and like a bright gray wrap and something a little fancy looking wrap, that probably could have done the job and saved me a whole lot of hassle with the smell that I'm still dealing with the oil paint. So there's ways that, you know, you can take that figure down a lot. You can take that figure down a whole lot, just by, you know, making better choices. Well, not better choices, but making, you know, different choices with your materials and your drivers. Pause. Hold on. I did take a quick look around the internet, and I did find an alternative. You don't have to spend that kind of dough. Just looking at Parts Express, I found woofers and tweeters and mids for way less money. And like I said earlier, the wallpapers would have probably been a lot better option than going those oil paints, because I'm still dealing with the smell. I have little buckets and containers of baking soda scattered all over my basement just trying to combat the stench. However, here is a much cheaper alternative to the price tag I proposed a second ago. The only reason why I went with that is because I already had that woofer, okay? I already own those woofers, so I didn't go out and buy those. However, if you wanted to do this from scratch, from absolute zero, here is the absolute zero start price. That's a whole lot cheaper than what I pitched a second ago. For $717 all in, woofers, mids, tweeters, wallpaper, and everything else on that list, out the door, ready to go. That's a way better number than 1,817 and a significantly better number than 160 something thousand dollars. That's it for me. Have yourself a fantastic, magnificent, over the top, over the moon, beautiful day, night, evening, whatever time you're watching this. And hopefully, you do a build something similar, and share it, because I'd love to see it. Anyway, thank you. Awesome. See you on the next build.